Hello everyone, my name is Chris and welcome back to Two for Joy, our Newcastle United save in FM26. Today we're going to have a quick recap of the first season for both men's and women's teams, see how we did and see if we managed to avoid the sack with the men's team because it wasn't going particularly great. And then we will check and see how we did on our points scheme that we put together to grade how we were performing. So if you remember last time you left me with the men's team, we were not doing particularly well. We ended up finishing 10th, so mid-table finish. The board we were predicted to finish 4th. As you can see, we were a long way off that. 18 points behind Chelsea in 4th, and the board actually wanted a title challenge, if possible. So we were absolutely a long way off that. Huge distance between us and the top two, who ran away with it in the end. So we're talking sort of 10 wins off the top two there. So not a great season at all. I did explain in the previous video partly why I think that happened. I think generally I start with a journeyman save each year. So I created a manager profile that was no experience, no badges. And yeah, I don't think that was a wise move for this save. We ended up just struggling to beat the momentum all season. Just morale was dead. Players wanting to leave, issues with contracts, transfer listed players booting off. It was just relentless. So that was definitely part of it. Just trying to battle that momentum curve. We just couldn't seem to do it. I changed formation a few times. Some working formations would suddenly stop working, and I think morale was the big part here. We had bad injuries too, which is the only reason I think the board didn't sack me. I had multiple meetings throughout the season, and each time I referenced the injuries, and luckily for us, the board, well, I say luckily, the board decided not to sack us because of the injuries. So we finished mid-table, pretty disappointing season. And yeah, quite far behind where we were expected to be. So in our table at the start for points, we had a 10th place finish for the men's team would give us 25 points out of 50 available for the league finish. So we ended up with just 25 points for the men. We didn't progress to the quarterfinals or better in any of the cup competitions. Although we were quite close in the Champions League, but we had a horrendous second leg against Juventus after the hilarious Ramsdale giving the ball away in the first leg, which was peak FM26 that I've experienced so far. So that was quite fun. In terms of the other points that we were going to hand out, we had board happiness was one of them. So for the board and fan happiness, depending on what ranking we got, we would get 5 points each for the grading. However, we did so badly. They were both, I think the board rating was an F. I don't think I've ever had an F in FM, so that was quite interesting. Mental that we didn't get sacked. So we get 0 points for that too. And the other thing was the head-to-head stats between the two teams, which we'll go through after we've checked out the women's finishing position. So 10th place for the men's. Let's shoot over to the women's team and see how they did last season. Okay, so WSL 2 probably just spoiled the surprise feed there without thinking about it. So WSL 2, previous season, we managed to finish as champions. We had a bit of a bobbly first half of the season. I also think trying not to do any signings in the first window was probably a little bit of an error because we played with just the real squads as they were. Women's team have struggled in real life so far this season to find any consistency. So the squad's not quite winning the league until you can sort of make those changes in January. We brought in a few players, form picked up nicely, and actually by the end of the season we managed to comfortably get over the line as champions. So that was really good actually. We were predicted to finish third, I believe, for the women's. And the board requirements really was to get one of those playoff places. So it was nice to finish as champions. We got 47 points, 5 points clear of Sunderland in second, who were level but beat on Bristol City on goal difference. Quite tight as well with Palace. It was very tight. There was sort of 5 of us bunched up for quite a while throughout the season. Then we managed to pull away towards the end. The new signings made a big impact. Scored the most, conceded the least. So yeah, really good performance from the women's team. And in terms of the points gradings, we had a first place finish was 50 points for the women's. So 50 points for the women, 25 points for the men for league finishes. Again, in the cups, we didn't progress with the women's. I would show you all this stuff, but it's just impossible to find things in this I don't know whether it's just bugged or what, but... Oh, I can go back. I couldn't go back when I checked yesterday. Okay, so we can go back. For the women's team, in the League Cup, we had... Oh, here we go. This is where it gets messy. So, fixtures. Can we go back to last season? No, we can't. Yes, we can. Okay, so bear with me. Group A. Oh, so this is just Group A, okay. It's not very well laid out, is it? There we go. That's this season. Good lord. There we go. Okay, so we lost in that crazy game with Durham last season. It was 5-4 to Durham. I think we were 3-1 down, managed to get back to 3-3 or 4-1 down and get back to 4-4, then Durham won it later. Horrible game. We then beat Sunderland 2-1, I believe, which was probably in the last video. And then we played Man City in the third game, and I think we were ahead at one point. I think it was 2-1 at one point. Let's actually go and check. So now the fixtures are actually working, we can actually check this stuff. What's going on here? Fixtures. So now fixtures isn't working. So confused. There we go. That's just a lot of weird little things going on here. Anyway, the Man City game. So yeah, we managed to... Oh no, we weren't winning at any point online. We managed to get back to 2-2. They kept going in front. And then Alex Greenwood scored a free kick really late on to win it. But I think if I remember rightly, we were actually pushing and did alright in that game. Yeah, we had a higher XG. I mean, 5 goals from just over 2 XG is pretty crazy. We were conceding possession, but we created quite a lot of good chances in that game. So it was a shame. But we played Man City twice in that season. I don't know why all of our stuff keeps disappearing. There we go. Yes, we played Man City twice last season, and we lost 3-2 both times. Annoyingly, that was another one in the FA Cup where we managed to take them to extra time, and then lost sadly in extra time. So yeah, we're not quite on WSL level, but we put in a decent performance, and then just ground out some really good league games till the end of the season. So in terms of the cup points, 0 for the women, 2. And in terms of board happiness, again, I can't go back and show you last season's stuff. I didn't think to record it at the time, but then I just can't find a way to get back to stuff. That's my problem, I know now for the future. It might be in here somewhere. It's just trying to get to anything in this game is still, at this point, quite hard to get to. Performance feedback. So there's no way of going to last season on this page. So yeah, now it's all reset for the start of the new season. So that's dropped down to C when it wasn't A, some A minus or something. So yeah, tricky one, annoyingly. So yeah, what I've done is, because everyone was very happy last season, we've 5 points each for the board happiness and fan happiness for the women's last season. So that's 10 points for the women, takes them to 60 versus the men's 25. And then the final one was for the head-to-head statistics, which again has been a bit of a nightmare to dig back through. I'll show you how it might, hopefully this, because I'm recording this after the beta track update for FM26, so it's the 5th today, no, 6th today, so yesterday evening 300 bug fixes came out, so hopefully this might be one of the things that's fixed. Let's just check. I was trying to, so when you go onto career and you want to see the stats for the previous season, So Una here did really well last season. It has been fixed. Brilliant. I couldn't see any of the other stats. It was showing. All I could see was her assists here for the league. I couldn't see any of her other assists for any other competitions. I also couldn't see half the stuff. It didn't actually show you any assists in this bottom section. It just showed some data. I'm guessing just this particular pop-up tile was bugged. So that's good to know that that's been fixed. It might mean that my data is slightly incorrect, but given the seasons that the two teams had, it's probably not going to make a huge difference anyway. So the first data point we were looking at is goals per 90 in terms of league goals scored by the teams. Obviously, there's more games in the Premier League than the Women's Super League 2, so we were dividing it by 90 in order to get a fair comparison between the two teams. At the end of the day, the men's team struggled badly and the women's team did pretty well, so it's not really surprised that goals per 90, the men's team averaged 1.52 and the women's team averaged 2.5, so comfortable victory for the women's team in that regard. Then we had conceded per 90, again, league games, women's team only, women's and men's teams, 90 minutes. The women's team conceded less than a goal a game, of course, so it turned out at 0.86 goals per game conceded. Absolutely miles ahead of the men's team, who conceded almost double at 1.65 on average per game per 90. So easy win for the women's team on that one. The next one was the total goals. Again, I was going to do this per 90, but I ended up doing it divided by appearances because that was the only stats I could find when I checked these. However, it was quite comfortably Una Stevenius that won anyway. Stevenius, sorry. Having a goal every 0.48 appearances, which was slightly, 0.5 ahead of Nick Voltemade and 0.43. So relatively close, but Una managed to get over the line with that one. The next one was the assists, the top assister, which for the men's team was Bruno Guimaraes with 9, I believe, in the league. These were league stats only anyway, so it didn't matter too much. Bruno averaged an assist every 0.27 games, so every 3 games pretty much, 3.5 games. Whereas the top assister for the women's team managed an assist every 0.31 games. So slightly ahead for the women's, slightly ahead, yeah. What's that, sort of 10% more? But yeah, that's another win for the women's team. And the final thing was clean sheets. So obviously, given that the women's team only let in 19 goals in 22 games, you can imagine there was a few more clean sheets. For the women's team, there was a clean sheet every 0.4 games, or every 0.490s. So that's considerably higher than the men's team, who averaged a clean sheet every 0.26. Or 0.26 clean sheets per 90. So like 1 in 4 kind of thing for the men's team. So yeah, it was a clean sweep for the women's team in terms of points on our little board. For each of those stats, there was 2 points assigned. So 10 points added for the women's team. 5 out of 5 they beat the men's team in. So absolute clean sweep. Added to the 10 for the board and fan happiness. That's another 20 on top of the 50 league points. Takes us to 70 points for the women's team. So an absolute wiping the floor of the men's team here. 70 versus 25. And that is the first season recap. Not entirely sure if I'm going to do a second season with this. Probably not. It was fun to do while the beta was out. I have started doing the transfers and stuff for the second season for both sides. But I'm a journeyman kind of save kind of person, so I'm probably going to start doing the journeyman stuff, to be honest. This was my first sort of dabble into a YouTube series. If anyone has actually watched it, I'm not sure anyone's watched the previous video, so hence probably calling it a day on this particular save, and I'll just move on to the one that I really love, which is the journeyman. If anyone does end up watching this series though and wants me to carry on, just leave me a comment and I'll consider it. I don't mind grinding out another season. It was meant to be a 2-season challenge. I thought I would get that done in the beta period time, but it's taken me a lot longer with all the bugs and stuff. So yeah, if anyone wants that, I'll do it. But if not, hopefully you'll come and check out my genuine save. Thanks for watching, and see you in another video. Cheers guys, catch you later.